Hello, good evening. Welcome back to Safe Space Talk. We are in noticeably different areas
Mhm.
due to life and whatever. I'm recovering from surgery. My baby has hand, foot, and mouth. So we try to get this episode out to you guys just as consistently as we possibly can.
Mhm.
Put light.
Yep, basically. The way to put
Did
it.
did you want to do
The
the
candles.
candle?
Yes, I have said candle. Now let's see if I can get the actual thing to light because that takes me about 30 minutes. Hold on, let me try to lower this a little bit here. There we go. And this thing has like 9 steps to it. It's child proof, but it's actually adult proof. All right, so here we go. One, two. Nope. Let's try it again. Two and three. Aha. I've got it. Okay, so we have our candle lit for all of our lovely people. If you're going through something, trying to do something big, do something small, do something that you care about at all, it all is encountered inside of our little flame. And we'll blow that out at the end. So today is your baby's story, right?
Yes,
The
Imani.
queen.
Yes, my I call her my twin flame. My little she looks just like her father, like she took his entire face. But me and her personalities I think are one and the same, just at different stages of our journeys. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really I love watching her grow because it's like watching myself mature through
All
childhood. And
over
I feel
again.
like I'm able to sometimes give her the things that I think were missing from me. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
able to pick up on that. So yes, my little girl, Imani, she is 10 now, little Spitfire.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is.
I
That's why I
was
had my tea. I was like, I can't wait for this one, honey, because Imani is a hot mess and a half.
yes, and
I
the way
love
she
her.
came in was a hot mess too. So
Why not
um
start at the beginning?
backstory. So I was newly transplanted to North Carolina with my then husband. He had gotten his orders and we got to Fort Bragg. I had been a NICU nurse up until that point for about maybe a year and a half or so. So I wanted to do labor and delivery, but I hadn't made it there yet. So before I moved to North Carolina, I actually had applied to one of the biggest hospitals in this area. Got an interview and a callback all within like I don't know 45 minutes. That should have let me know why I should not have worked there, but labor and delivery, they were finna hire me, and this was my way to make it
It was
in.
your
So
shot.
yes, and you
Like
sometimes in
Eminem
nursing
said, you
you
only
have
get
to
one
take
shot.
yes, you
Do
have to
not miss
take
your
it.
chance.
Especially if girls of color, we don't get
Mm-hmm.
into the specialty fields as easily. It's very
Oh
hard
my
for us to break
God.
in. So that
Mm-hmm.
is a tidbit of information. If you want to break into a specialty as a person of color, sometimes you have to go to the shitty hospitals
Yeah.
and get your
But
experience there
eh.
and get it on your resume. So I started labor and delivery, and it's a very high volume, high pace, highly medicalized center, and that's what was my introduction to labor and delivery. So fear mongering, everything's dangerous, everything's scary. I'm like, oh my god, do I even want to do this? This just seems like a lawsuit waiting to happen. I can see why people don't want to do this. I don't see how you're so miserable doing things that you love. So I had discussed with my husband at the time that we wanted to have another baby, but we wanted to wait a little bit. Well, so me thinking, okay, well, I'll get my next one on out, and it's going to take a few months to um
Kick yourself back
regulate.
into gear. Mm-hmm.
No, I never had a cycle. My next one on was out, and I was pregnant right thereafter. On Valentine's Day, she was actually conceived, and I had to go to work that night. I worked night shift. So here I am, a very
I hate to cut
emotional.
you off. I'm sorry. But Xavier was conceived on Valentine's Day, right before I had to go to work.
Yeah,
How crazy.
see,
So he
that's
ended up being born
hilarious.
October 29th and
She was
his due date was November 5th. When was
her due date was the 4th.
See,
Yep,
look at that.
yep, yep.
Okay, anyways, go ahead. Look at school. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
um, so I'm very emotional. I'm in a whole new place. I don't have a lot of family. Well, I don't have any family other than my husband and my first child, who was about 3.5 when I moved there. So young mom. just trying to make night shift work and in this very nurse eat nurse environment. Oh, it was so miserable. They hated people. They were just so rude and like every opportunity to make you feel this big. So I actually lasted there all of like 11 months because I was like, mm, can't do it. So I quit right before I had her. But that was just a miserable, very sad pregnancy because, you know, it was very high risk. So you
Mhm.
see a lot of things and then just being constantly like yelled at and mean while you're pregnant and like hungry and nauseous. And of course, you know, I had a hyperemesis with this pregnancy, of course. My first of many, my first of so many. And yeah, so I ended up quitting, and the my last night, and this is where it takes an interesting twist. My last night there, I got placed on call, and I was like, yes, perfect. Of course, I ended up getting called in, and then had to do a stat section, and you know all that stuff
Yeah, that
with the
worked out.
surgeon who refused to count, and you know the works of how it goes. And then they were like, "Oh, when's your last day?" And I clock it. I was like, "That was it. You will literally never see." Um, no goodbye party. Everybody who started after me got goodbye parties. They told me I was pretty much like a quitter. I had, by the way, I had like pylo in this pregnancy from not being able to drink water at the water station. They told me I
Mhm.
was young. They would schedule me like five 12s back to back. It was just like not a good environment anyway.
Mhm.
So the last night I get put on call, and then I ended up just stumbling across this documentary called The Business of Birth. Have you ever
Mhm.
heard of that?
Mm-mm.
So it's Ricky Lake. It's an old documentary.
Ricky Lake,
Ricky
like
Lake.
talk show host Ricky Lake.
Yes,
Okay.
Ricky Lake. So, and I think you can. And she also came up with a one, the business of contraception, maybe like a year or so ago, or you know that was kind of in that bundle. But anyway, so it was basically what you and I know now is the industrialized, colonized birth world versus
Yeah,
what is in
physiologically
right.
going to
So
occur.
I was just like, what? You know, I've been duped. Like all this is crazy. And I'm watching home birth videos probably for the first time ever in life. And, you know, like she goes through this journey of how she had a midwife and, you know, how she was doing interviews of, you know, like how do we push inductions to get more money to, you know, like just the viciousness of what we know the OB world is. OB is not a lucrative business when it comes to hospitals, so they have to force it to be that way, and they have to pump the numbers. So that's where you get, you know, pitocin and sections and pitocin and sections, induction, pitocin, section. So it was just like, wow, that for that being my last night. And then I had maybe like a month and a half left in my pregnancy. And I was like, okay, no, I'm not even, you know what? No, I know more now. You know, this is going to go how I want it to go. So I was like, I'm going to go unmedicated. I'm going to labor at home and blah, 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 blah. So, the time comes and I'm not even expecting it. So the day, maybe I was 39 weeks and I lost my mucus plug and I was like, you know, that means
Nothing.
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 Um, and it's funny because within 24 hours, I had her in my hands. So I'm doing something. He's going to PT. It's early in the morning, and so I told him I lost my mucus plug, and then I go to sleep that night, and I remember sitting in the bed and saying, "God, please, I just want my body back. I'm so tired of this." You know, like I'm thankful, but can we be done? Can we be done with this? And you know, from my last story, y'all might remember I went overdue. So I, at 39 weeks, thought I have the whole
Yeah,
1 week,
a whole
which
nother month
equals,
left to go.
yeah, exactly. So, it may be, what was it? I would say 2 in the morning. I
Okay.
start getting contractions and I'm like,
Mhm.
okay. And I didn't even question it this time. I was like, okay.
Yep, this is it.
Yep, this is it. Because these weren't like, you know, how Malachi's were just like unperceptible to actually being contractions. This was like contraction, calm, no pain, total calm, contraction, you know, it's like how it was in the movie. So I go downstairs and I get on my birthing ball and I'm kind of just like, all right, this can be a long process, you know, I'm not gonna rush it or whatever. I got my cat in one hand. He's labored with me in every labor I've had since her, actually. So my cat with me, every time I would get a contraction, I would like stand up and I would be like just shuffling and walking back and forth,
Mhm.
pacing in my living room again, up and down the stairs, pacing, and then like in between, I'm just doing hip circles, hip circles, hip circles. And I was like, man, this is intense quick. And I was just thinking, like, I know I want to go unmedicated, but this is hit pretty quickly. And if I have like a day or so of this to go, I don't know how long I'm gonna last. So 2:30, I wake up Gordon and I'm like,
Didn't you just say it started at 2?
at 2:30, I wake him up and I say, hey, I'm starting to have contractions. Can you fill the tub up for me? Because I'm just thinking like, hey, this is what helped last time, you know? And
Mm-hmm. Uh-oh. Dun, dun, dun,
get in the tub,
dun.
get in the tub. No, not helpful.
Yes.
I couldn't sit in that tub to save my life. I didn't want that water was annoying to me. I didn't want to be sitting down. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
no, sir. Sorry you filled that tub up for nothing. So then we didn't have childcare. So I text and I just happened to text my friend who also worked night shift. She was a single lady and she lived like 45 minutes away. And I said, hey, are you awake? And she was like, yeah. And I said, can you come check me and can you take my son? Because I want to go to the hospital if it's time. So she comes to check me. Like I said, 45 minutes away. I'm over there like losing it, like no, don't think I want to go unmedicated anymore. So I'm like, just kind of trying to talk myself like to stay calm. Like I don't want to freak him out. So I wake the baby up and I'm like packing, the last few things I need, my ID card and kind of like walking out there. So I um get all the stuff in the car, go back in. She finally arrives and she comes and checks me and she goes, you're 9 centimeters with a bulging bag of water. And I was like, oh shit. And at this time, I remember I was on the couch and like my husband was standing to the right of me. And I said, okay, we have to go. And he doesn't know what that means. So he's like, okay. And I'm like, no, to go like now. So he's like, okay. So I start getting like my clothes on stuff. I tell her, the instructions for him. I'm standing out on the driveway. My son's asked me like, is the baby coming? Is my sister coming? Of course, he had asked, every day for the past.
Mm-hmm.
She coming, she coming, she's taking too long, blah blah blah. So they end up leaving.
Yeah, yeah, we all said that, son.
Like they're like the person who's actually carrying her. Yes, I feel it. I feel it in my veins. So then she takes my son on before something already. So it's October, so kind of chilly out here, and I'm kind of swaying on the driveway, and I'm looking, and I'm like, what is taking him so long in there? And because remember he passed out on my last
With the
one,
last one,
he
yes.
was so determined that he was going to be the perfect labor coach. He went to like all the free labor courses with me and was just like, no, you're not going to have it. You never let me live that down. So you're not going to have anything to say about this one. So he's like, I guess looking for Jolly Ranchers because I said that I wanted to sneak in Jolly Ranchers because I thought it was going to be a long time in the hospital. He's looking for this bag of Jolly Ranchers upstairs. And you can see the light. I'm standing on the driveway, like light on and off, on, off, on, off, in every room
Oh, dear
upstairs
gracious.
looking for stuff. And I was just like, oh my God. So then he finally gets in the car, drives. It's, of course, nobody's on the street, stops at every red light. I'm at this point doing one of these things
Yes,
in the
you're one
car,
cheeking it. Mm-hmm.
And so then we get there. They see that I'm laboring. I'm trying to just walk upstairs to, this is at Womack, by the way, so you know the layout. I come
Mm-hmm.
into
It's
Rock
right
Point.
married now. Mm-hmm.
So I get in there and I'm kind of just shuffling and making my way upstairs. And there's a duty person, the little front duty desk person
Mm-hmm.
that's will sign out the wheelchairs. So they start saying that I need to be in a wheelchair. I don't want to be in a wheelchair. I just want to keep walking. They are, for whatever you see a pregnant woman labor, people always want to stick them in wheelchairs for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand. Like you're gonna
They want to
keep
save. They want to
keep the
save the people
baby,
that don't need to be saved.
keep the baby in with the wheelchair.
In with
I
the
don't
wheelchair.
know.
Yep, that's the idea. I
So then
guess.
him and Gordon are like over there because these are chained up. They're over here like messing with the chains, and I'm like, whatever, y'all. I'm just gonna keep walking. So then by the time I get to the elevator, he finally gets the wheelchair and he's like running behind me with his slides all everywhere, like scoops me up into the wheelchair, takes me upstairs. Um, we get through at the front desk, you have to start signing in. And it asked me to start signing in, and I'm looking at this paper, and I was just like, can't even
No,
do it for you, bruh. I got nothing.
no,
I
no.
turned around and the way the thing is set up, so this is where you check in front of you and behind you is the rooms. And I looked on the scan and I saw an open door and I saw that it was set up for a delivery, so or an admission at least. Got up, got in that room, and they were like still trying to talk to me. Ma'am, can you sit down? I said I have to push. and matter of factly turned around and like walked into the
Walked
room.
right into room 3.
Yeah. And so I get in there and I just start stripping. The door's open. I'm pulling off my
I
sweats or
love you.
whatever. Yeah, and I just start pulling off my stuff, and then they're kind of like, trying to talk to me like, blah blah blah. And I hear my husband out at the desk saying, "Well, she's 9 centimeters," and they're like, "Well, how do you know that?" And he said her friend checked her, and I was like, "You're not supposed to be telling any parts of these."
Any of that. That was
Yeah,
like, no.
that was supposed to be like discreet for us. So anyway, I get in there. One of the midwives comes and she checks me, and she's like, "Yeah, you're complete. Let's break your water and have a baby." And I start like tearing up because I was like, "No," and everybody's like, "Why?" And I was like, "I want the epidural now." Now I've changed my mind. Now I want an epidural. And Gordon was like, or that my ex husband was like, isn't this exactly what you said that you wanted? Like what? And I was like, yes, but sometimes you ask what you get what you want and then you don't want it anymore. So
Exactly. I can change my mind.
yes, that is my prerogative. And so they break my water. I felt the head settle down
Mhm.
on my bones, and I did a push, and it was kind of like so effective. One of those where you're like, whoa, and then so you kind of stop yourself.
Yes. And then you get nervous.
And I thought to myself, all right, this is gonna hurt really badly. And I gunned it to the floor, and I gave myself a 2nd-degree laceration. That's what they called it. I to this day think it was probably a third or at least a 3A. It was down there because I felt suturing on my sphincter when she did it.
Oh
Um,
dear.
yeah. So I think it was one of those change of shift because she was born at 4:54 in the morning. So
Hmm.
it's one of those close enough to the change of shift, but I still have to do all of this work that I don't want to get, other people involved. Like I just want to keep this minimal and just keep pushing. I think it was one of those, and she was ready to retire because she was super old. And so I end up having her, they're suturing me. I'm like biting down on him as they're suturing me because that I think hurt worse than the actual pushing. She came out with a double nuchal and a double true knot. But the
Excuse
true
me, I'm gonna
knots
cough
were
on
on
that one.
the true knots were on top
Oh
of
my
each other,
God. Oh
actually.
my God.
So I sometimes wonder if because
Wow.
when a baby's in distress, your body will force labor to
Quickly
happen.
deliver. Correct.
Yes. And I kind of feel like because from the first contraction until birth was 2.5 hours,
That's
less
why
than two
whenever
and a
you
half
said
hours.
2:30, I said
Yes.
2:30.
Yes.
Yeah. And
It
it
was
will, your body will literally expel the baby super fast.
Yes, and then I had so much mom guilt. I was like, "Oh my God, me wanting to go unmedicated. Like I could have got there much faster, but me thinking like I was staying home, I was doing all this stuff, and now she could have had a horrible strip and blah blah blah. Like her Apgars were probably like 8, 9, who knows? But like she was
Hmm.
like she didn't. She stayed on me. We did some delayed cord clamping. So the double nuchal, she came out. They put her on me, and her cord was so long that when they went to go extract the placentas when they found the double true knot on top of it because it was having
Oh,
some issues
wow.
getting past my cervix. So she goes to kind of sweep it out to see, like, hey, what's the hang up? And it's
Hmm.
like literally like 2 knots on top of each other.
Wow.
So that is like crazy to me. And like two, two, two. So I'm always like, that's my twin flame. Like due on November 4th. She was born on October 29th,
Hmm.
same as your baby. But
Hmm.
in my head, that was the day that stood out to me. Like everybody kept on asking me when I was due, and that would be pop into my head. I'm like, that's not even my due date. I don't even know
Due
why
date, yes.
that. Like, but in my head, that was her due date. So that was Imani. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell people about the Ring of Fire.
Um, it's
We
funny
get so many
because
questions about that.
I remember saying, "Ooh, it burns," but I don't remember what the burning feels like. I have no
Huh.
recollection of it, and I'm like, that's to be sure that's an oxytocin-induced amnesia because how could you? Or it was just so quick that I did not feel because she had no molding. She was one of those that just expeditiously, like that one little prep push brought her down,
Hmm.
and then that second one expelled her all the way, like to the point, like no, like restitution. All it was all one.
It was all in one.
So
Yes.
like I really don't know. I feel like I felt more Ring of Fire with my third that where I actually had to push down a few times. But it feels like to me, it didn't feel like a ring of fire. If the pressure sensation feels like there's literally somebody internally moving your pelvic bones out the way with a very hard bony prominence, like a
Yes, that's
literally,
exactly how I
yeah,
felt.
mm-hmm, yeah,
Yeah, I
that's what it
felt
felt.
that. I felt like somebody took a pelvis literally like this, and this was me, and somebody's hand was here, and somebody's hand was here,
Yes,
and they were pulling.
yes,
That's
yes,
what birth felt like to me
yes, yes, yeah,
whenever I didn't have my epidural, and I was
yep,
just like, like stop
mm-hmm,
pulling it, just
yeah.
leave it alone.
But all you know, like the reassuring fact is that you can always think of like my baby's only so big, and once the head
Hmm.
passes, squishiness will follow, and it's kind of like I cannot push hard enough to fracture my pelvis in a way. Like, you know what I'm saying? The baby is the
Hmm.
force of me pushing the baby out is not going to, unless I already had predisposed like fractures, which then you shouldn't be doing any of that. But like that's the
Hmm.
only solace I found in those moments is like when they're telling you push, like it can only it get to its peak and then it
And
will
that's
go
pretty
back
much
down.
it. It
Mm-hmm.
will go back. It will go away,
Mm-hmm.
and you will get some kind of a break. But that was a
Yeah.
really fast labor. But that's also classic second baby too.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of times your second is going to be your fastest. You can have eight, but there's something about that second one that just hits different and they just come out quicker.
And she's been ahead of her time ever since she potty trained herself. 16 months. She's been taught like she still blows my mind with the her vocabulary.
Hmm. She
It's yeah.
does. She
So
is amazing. So whenever she looks at this, as all of our kids are going to eventually one day see this and like cringe and be like, "Oh my God, that was my mom." Yeah. But what would you want her to remember from you to her in reference to either the birth story or just to her actually being in your life?
oh man, it was the birth story was so empowering. I have tapped into that so many times in times in life when there's like a physical procedure or something that I have to get through that I'm like, this is gonna be painful, this is gonna be hard. And it's like, no, you have birthed a baby, you can do this, you can do this. And that's like my
Hmm.
mantra half the time, like, in my head, this is what's getting me through. So it is so empowering to take that back after what I had as my first birth. And I
Birth.
even
Hmm.
though I did not get the whole like labor at home kind of like coping mechanism. It was hard and fast, but it's like I still did that birth. I rocked
Exactly.
that birth. So it was like, basically rebirthing as a woman and a mom in a sense of like that first birth was kind of taken from me or kind of done to me, and
Hmm.
whereas I was upright, I was sitting, I was pushing in a sitting position, yeah, I blew my bottom out, but this was on my accord.
But were you squatting?
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
actually, squatting is associated with second degrees. Now,
Hmm.
granted, you say you feel like yours is, but that's actually, that position is
Hmm.
most closely associated with getting a second degree.
And nobody was fit to get me out of that position either.
Exactly. But it's
They
one of
kept
those
on doing the
where
little push on
trying to
my
push
shoulder
you back,
back, and
look onto your back with your knees all the way out and back.
I'm over here back on
So
my
your in,
elbows.
so your outlet can be like this. Yep. Yeah. Close that thing all the way in there. Well, I'm very, very proud of you. And I am
You.
very, very honored to hear the birth story of Imani because she truly is like she is a queen. I don't know what it is, but every time I see her, I think
That
about that
Scorpio
that
energy.
movie. It's gotta be like that movie Coming to America where they're like, she's your queen to be. I don't know what it is, but something about every time she walks into the room, I'm like, there she is. Yeah, like every time she just walks in, and I can say just from knowing her, like she walks in and she commands the room. And that's
Yeah,
very rare for a child, but she actually
yeah,
walks in and she commands the room just walking into it.
yeah.
And I love
So
it. I
yeah,
love it.
it'll be great to watch this growing up. But yeah, we're running short on time here, so my
Yes.
recording's gonna cut off. But I'm glad I got to recant my story. And yeah, let's go ahead and there you go.
There we go.
Subscribe if you guys want to share birth stories. Feel free to put in the comments. We can connect. You can be on one of our episodes if people like this. This is something we can do more often.
Hmm.
But let us know.
And message all you can and all that you would like to. We would love to hear from you guys. And we still need suggestions for what our 4 followers' names are going to be.
Oh yeah, my dad put some suggestions in there in the comments. Some of them
Oh,
were the knowledge seekers, the safers, or the spacers. Safe Squad. I think some of those were some of
Oh, okay. I like those. I don't know why I wasn't able to pick those up, but I thought the Spaceys, and then I was like, oh God, Kevin, never mind. So I stopped thinking about names after that. I said, you know what, let me keep my ass up out of this. Because obviously I'm not gonna be it. So we're gonna have to look at those and make a decision. Maybe we'll do that by next episode.
All right. Well,
All
I'll
right,
see
you
you later,
guys.
girl. And I'll see
Yes,
y'all later.
love you. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for watching.